Last week, Republicans released the image of this check showing a large payment directly to Joe Biden as proof of Joe Biden's corruption. Now, I've done my own investigation into this check, and I don't think the Republicans even realize what they've found here. I'm going to break it all down for you this week on Wolves in Finance. This is another story that I am shocked the mainstream media is not talking about. When you hear about this check, it is unbelievable that the news media is not asking any questions about this. In the past, whenever critics of Joe Biden would bring up allegations of bribery, he would always respond by saying, "Where's the money?"
Wait. The bribery allegation, Congresswoman Nancy Mace says there's damning evidence in the FBI file that you sold out the country. Do you have a response to the congressional Republicans?
Where's the money? I'm joking.
Mr. President,
it's a bunch of malarkey.
Mr. President.
So he claims it is a bunch of malarkey. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not going to accept that. We are going to ask some tough questions because Republicans have now produced checks, proof of when money dropped into Joe Biden's bank account under suspicious circumstances. That doesn't seem like a bunch of malarkey to me. That seems like hard evidence. There have been two checks produced, one for $40,000 that relates to the Chinese energy company CEFC. I have done videos on the corruption allegations about CEFC and the email that says that Hunter Biden is holding 10% for the big guy. This check for $40,000 directly into Joe Biden's bank account is exactly 10% of a payment from CEFC. But in this video, I want to focus more on the second check for $200,000. This deals with a scandal by Joe Biden's brother, Jim Biden, or known more formally as James Biden. Jim Biden was doing work for a hospital company called Americore Health. They own small hospitals in rural America. The company was struggling financially. Here is Jim Biden's business card when he was working for the business. We have a good idea of what happened due to the company's bankruptcy records when the company sued Jim Biden. The court documents say, defendant procured the $600,000 in loans from Americore Health based upon representations that his last name, Biden, could open doors and that he could obtain a large investment from the Middle East based on his political connections. So Jim Biden saw the company was struggling, and he told them to give him $600,000, and he would use his family influence to make their problems go away. A witness has also told the Oversight Committee James would often explain over the phone that Joe Biden was in the room with him, and James had been explaining the deal to him. This is the same tactic that we see being used by Hunter Biden in his text messages. By the way, Jim Biden never connected the company with investors from the Middle East. That was a lie. Instead, he helped the company get an ill-advised bridge loan from a hedge fund, which ended up forcing the company into bankruptcy. At that point, Jim never paid the money back. The company sued Jim Biden, and he settled for $350,000. What a shady character. He took the money and ran, and then only had to pay back a little over half the money years later. It seems like it pays pretty well to be the president's brother. Here's why all of this is important. Jim Biden was paid the $600,000 in two installments, the first for $400,000 and the second for $200,000. The same day that he received the $200,000 payment, he wrote the $200,000 check to his brother, Joe Biden. The same day. This looks like a shakedown of a poor country hospital, and Joe Biden is getting rich. If we look at the check, the note reads loan repayment, but the Oversight Committee has the bank records and can find no transaction that looks like the original loan. How can it be a repayment if there was no loan? Why does the money always seem to flow towards Joe Biden and never to anyone else? That's strange. Also, so far the White House has not produced any loan documents. There's no proof that a loan ever existed. If this was not a loan, what was the payment for? Bribery? Some people have argued that this was a personal loan between family members and there were no documents. Well, that seems like a lot of malarkey to me. $200,000 is a lot of money. Would you loan someone $200,000 without some sort of paperwork? I doubt it. People also argue that this was a personal transaction that occurred in 2018 while Joe Biden was out of office, and this should not even be an issue. However, if the money was coerced, promising actions while Joe Biden was president, it becomes a problem. But let's just take their word for it. Let's say it is an innocent loan repayment. It's still a problem. Even if they're telling the truth, it is a problem. Because something people have forgotten is that we have Joe Biden's tax returns from 2018. If this was a loan repayment, it should show up on his tax forms. Now, I've gone through his tax forms with a fine-tooth comb, and as far as I can tell, it's not on there. Now, it could be buried within some other number, but I doubt it. It should not be under wages. It should not be under business income because this was a personal payment. It's not reported under interest. It's not reported under real estate income. It's not reported as a personal gift. Where is it reported? The only thing it might be is that buried in his wages, he reports receiving $200,000 from his shell company called Giacopa Corp. This corporation is listed on Joe Biden's financial disclosure form for his speaking and writing engagements. Obviously, a personal loan repayment should not be reported as wages from his speaking engagements, so I certainly hope he didn't lie on his tax form. But let's say that he didn't lie, that it's something different. Who is paying Joe Biden $200,000 to speak? Why is he getting all of these $200,000 payments? I want to find out what that payment is for. Now, some people are claiming that the $200,000 could have been a personal loan repayment with 0% interest, and so he would not have any income to report on his taxes. If that's the case, that is illegal. The IRS says that if you give someone a loan with 0 interest, you have to calculate out what the interest would have been and report it as income on your taxes. That is called imputed interest. If you do not report it, that is illegal. Any way you look at this, it seems like Joe Biden has done something illegal here. That's probably why the White House has not commented on this yet. Why won't they comment? Because any explanation will probably implicate the president in some kind of crime. If it was a bribe, it was a crime. If it was a loan repayment and he did not report it on his taxes, that is tax fraud. Just so that you understand the way tax audits work, you have to produce your receipts to the IRS. In this case, if Joe Biden cannot produce the loan document, the IRS requires him to report the full $200,000 as income, and he has to pay taxes on it. You can't just have money drop into your bank account and not pay taxes on it. That is income. Do you remember? There was a famous trial of someone named Al Capone, also known as Scarface. He was a crime boss in the Italian mob. They eventually convicted him not of being a mobster, but because of tax fraud. He was convicted of 5 counts of tax evasion in 1931. He was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. He was doing the same thing we see with Joe Biden, having large amounts of money drop into his bank account and not reporting it on his taxes. I think we have to ask an obvious question here. What is the difference between Al Capone and the Biden crime family? They seem pretty similar to me. Now, Republicans have not been talking very much about the tax issues, because even if Joe Biden committed tax fraud, that's generally not considered an impeachable offense. An impeachable offense needs to be related to his job in office. So, taking a bribe would be an impeachable offense, but cheating on your taxes is not. But it would still send him to prison. The statute of limitations for tax fraud is a little bit confusing, but my understanding for this type of tax fraud is that Joe Biden would still be within the statute of limitations. There's an actual check and bank records. That's clear and convincing evidence. We're talking about tax evasion and filing a false return, which is punishable by up to 5 years in prison. I hope you realize that if this was you or I, we would be in prison for this. If you don't report $200,000 on your taxes, don't you think the IRS would come after you? Can someone please explain to me why Joe Biden is not being arrested for this? This seems like a two-tiered justice system. What's particularly disturbing to me about this is that Jim Biden has already shown that he's lied to the IRS. Do you remember the $40,000 check from CEFC? Because of the suspicious nature of these transactions coming from the Chinese Communist Party, Jim Biden was already interviewed by the FBI and the IRS. Per the notes from the interview, Jim Biden told investigators he was not exactly aware of the Hudson West entity, as he was always paid by Hunter Biden through Owasco, a different company. Now that we have the bank records, we can see that this was an obvious lie. Jim Biden's law firm received multiple transfers directly from Hudson West. If you're receiving large cash payments into your bank account, I am betting that you know who is giving them to you. Do you think he would lie about $600,000 he absconded with after bankrupting a hospital company? I wonder if he reported that on his taxes. Here's the important part that people are missing. Even if the tax fraud is not an impeachable offense, it still ties back to the president. There is something that's always bothered me. Do you remember when the whistleblowers came forward from the IRS about the Hunter Biden investigation? One of the whistleblowers was named Gary Shapley. In his testimony, he talks about how their efforts to investigate Hunter Biden were blocked by the Department of Justice. They got a search warrant for the guest house of the Biden's Delaware residence, and Assistant U.S. Attorney Wolf blocked the search warrant from being completed. When they continued their investigation, they say Wolf also told investigators they should not ask about President Biden during witness interviews, even when the business communications of his son clearly reference him. This conversation happened while Joe Biden was president. This news story has always been reported on in the context that Joe Biden was abusing his power to protect his son Hunter. But the evidence we now have suggests something else. We now have evidence that shows that Joe Biden himself may have been committing tax fraud. He wasn't protecting Hunter. He was protecting himself. If Joe Biden was abusing his power as the president to cover up his own crimes, that is an impeachable offense. Now, Attorney General Merrick Garland claims that he has never spoken to the president about the case against him. It is currently being overseen by Special Counsel David Weiss. But if that is true, who gave the direction to stop the IRS investigators from asking about Joe Biden? And if there is no issue, why aren't the IRS investigators questioning Joe Biden right now? Now, we have to be fair here. It is possible there is an explanation where all of these shady financial transactions are completely innocent. But I would like to know what that is. I would like the president to provide the $200,000 loan document and explain how it is reported on his taxes. If there's no issue, why not just tell everyone? On Wednesday last week, Representative James Comer of the Oversight Committee signed subpoenas for Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, and their business associate Rob Walker. Hopefully, we will get concrete answers to many of these questions. Although personally, I don't see how they answer any questions without implicating Joe Biden in criminal activity. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think that Joe Biden did something illegal? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now, this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone at this point, but my video last week got demonetized again, as many of them have been lately. I just want to say a big thank you to all my viewers who have purchased memberships. Since my YouTube revenue has taken a big cut, I've really been relying on your support to help put out these videos. If you want to support the channel, you can sign up on my website, wolvesandfinance.com, for a membership for $6 a month. And I will keep bringing you just the facts. I'm Zach from Wolves and Finance. Thank you for watching.